It being 10-ish o'clock-ish, I'd like to call to order the public hearing on Public Works and Highways for Senate Bill 153 FN and recognize the esteemed Honorable Senator Mark McConkey back to Public Works and Highways. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, esteemed members of this committee, and for the new members that are sitting for their first time, you have landed in a place that is uniquely wonderful in that, as I've always said when I was chair here, and I've served with other chairs in this room, that partisanship does not show up in this committee, and they've always worked together, and let that be your thought when I present my bill to you also. I'm here today to, as prime sponsor for Senate Bill 153. For the record, I'm Mark McConkey. I represent the good people of Senate District 3. Housing, as you know, is a great need in our state. And what I've come to learn on a very small scale, I'm a small business owner, is that delays in getting all of your permit package together is a delay that you can't get your financing, you cannot move forward. We had an issue with permitting larger developments, 20, for argument's sake, I'll say 20 doors, someone building apartments, houses, whatever. In some instances, it could take 1.5 to 2 years to get that permitting. And while you're waiting to pull the final package together, you're not able to, as a developer, receive your financing to make sure that you're a viable project. So the initial thought on this was to levy a hammer and say that permits had to be approved in 90 days. Knowing full well that that was going to be extremely hard to accomplish for the department and would involve the hiring of many employees to make that happen. What I am so happy to say is, and I've always been a big fan of the Department of Transportation and big thinking and working with New Hampshire home builders, we have come up with a second lane for receiving permitting. You can continue to go down that path and submit your application and take it as the permit comes forward on the desk, and you could be out months, if not years, to get that, or go with the program that is proposed here, that the developer would pay a fee per door to get an application, which would help fund the effort from DOT, and then accept paying for other parties to handle the review process going forward. This was an enormous work out with the department. It looks like it's well received, and I'm happy to have my name associated with this also. So there was a physical note that I ran into a few of you folks having lunch one day that was great concern. If you take a peek at the physical note, I believe the Department of Transportation with Governor Council had worked out some software issues that they were able to bring some funding forward, and the department can speak to that later. So that physical note has been removed. I think it's a great leap forward. Public and private partnerships are the way to go, whether it's educating our kids in the CTE schools or right here to get things done and hopefully get housing happening quicker. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for taking my question. So I have two questions. One is just for the public. When you mentioned during your testimony here that it's a per door fee, so that's like if you have 30 homes you're trying to develop, is that 30 homes, 30 doors that you're saying?
Correct.
correct. Thanks. So I just want to make sure that clarification. So my understanding that when the Senate worked on this, the revision to the fiscal notes was based on, as you said, some additional funding for software that would help the DOT in this, and that the major cost on this is associated with a management person to oversee outside consultants that are going to actually physically do the work. Is that correct?
That is my understanding, and it's why there's a fee per door that will help fund that person.
And follow-up.
Follow-up.
question. So you mentioned that we're looking to expedite the timing on this. So based on what you've discussed with the DOT, from the current process time for these permits to what we would get if this bill is approved, what would be the decrease in time period for this by doing this program? Thank you.
If I could, my understanding is that you could take for a larger project, something that's more complicated, you could expect to shave a year off of that process.
Any further questions? Representative Bone?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for taking the question. To me, this sounds like a sort of the old-time graft situation. It's gonna take you a year, but if you pay me $2,400, we can do it in a week. I mean, doesn't that sound that to you?
Thank you for the question, and I like the analogy. You having a willing participant here, which is the developer. You have, and time is money. And if they are able to move through the process at what I feel is a reasonable level of a cost, and they are of the same understanding, and I know there's going to be one or two people to speak to you about it, I see it as nothing but a win-win. The problem with moving the hammer that we threw out there, which was 90 days to get this done, with the complexity of some of these projects and the need for traffic studies and review, and then how long it takes again to get that back from a willing developer's consultant, all of those things added up. They are 100% behind this proposal. You still have the right, if you don't want to pay the money and you don't want to participate, that lane is still open to you to pull your permit and go through the process. I hope that answers. I'm happy with this carrot.
Representative Faulkner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand that there are a number of bills coming over from the Senate with a similar theme, trying to reduce the, say, the burden of developing new housing. To what extent are they coordinated or depend on each other, or is this really something that exists by itself?
The Home Builder Association had identified this as one of their number one priorities from them. The House took a position that has had a housing committee started out by Speaker Packard and still continues. And I know you have a separate committee, and the Senate has also, but there have been a bunch of these pieces that don't necessarily involve zoning and easier to do. I hope that answers.
Further questions? Representative Melvin?
Thank you for taking my question. Could you tell me what happens if the 90 days pass and I don't have my approvals?
Thank you for the question. The 90 days is no longer on the table here. My understanding.
Representative Juris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator, for taking my question. Will the consultants for the DOT be on, will they be ready to go once this application begins for the review?
Thank you for the question. I believe as soon as they can pull their consultant together and they can answer that better, they feel comfortable with the process.
One more quick
Follow
one,
up?
if I could. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Will there be any additional incentives for housing that's either workforce or, you know, income-driven, if you will, in this proposal?
There is nothing about income as part of this proposal, for whether this is strictly permitting for larger developments, anything over 20 units or more.
Okay. Thank you.
One final question, Representative Vallone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, and welcome back.
Thank
Good
you,
to-
sir.
Good to see you. Quick question. So the break-even point for this is, so basically, I'm looking at the numbers, it's about $20,000 an application. Would that be correct? Is this 30? I'm just doing some quick math, or is that something?
I believe you are correct.
Okay. Follow up?
Follow up.
I'm sorry, went to real quick. So it goes back to sort of the point that you made, Representative Bone. If someone's paying $20,000, I mean, what's the incentive to say no? I mean, is this going to create some kind of pressure that the department has to give? I mean, I'm just saying, how do we resolve issues where this may not be a good proposal and there's some technical problems with it? I mean, would the department feel sort of, how do you address that issue where they can really give an honest appraisal of the project?
Thank you for the question. Probably the department would be better to answer that. By having the coordinator position that's proposed here, that person's going to be in contact not only with the consultants, but also with the developer. I'd made brief mention earlier that many times, as it goes through the review process, the consultant will find an item that needs to be changed, and everything's on hold at that point. So the idea is by having that person and that back and forth, things will move forward. I see nothing in here that pressures Department of Transportation to permit a project that they feel is not in the general safety of our state.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, Senator McConkey, thank you very much
Thank you.
for testimony. This time I'd like to call Matt Mayberry, please, from the New Hampshire Home Builders Association. Welcome to Public Works.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, committee members. My name is Matt Mayberry. I'm the CEO of the New Hampshire Home Builders Association. We represent the 27,000 men and women who sweat for a living every single day. We're very excited to be here. We are so excited for this. This is exactly what we've all been asking for, that public-private partnership. And I want to drive home to the committee that is the home builders working with our friend Senator McConkey who have asked for this. We know the numbers. We know the fees. We know that there will be a little bit of a learning curve, and we're willing to work with them. We want this. Time is money. If we can have a dedicated employee who can take a year off of hold cost, interest payments, hold-ups on bank financing, this is gold to us. And we're willing to pay for that, participate in that. We sat with the DOT, worked out the details, and we've said all along, if it needs to be tweaked, we'll be the first ones to say, okay, we know this is new. And we're asking you, please come with us, allow us to do this. You know, it's the one priority that we had from the very first conversation all the way through has been that safety is priority number one. It's actually more oversight than what happens right now. Because you had that expediter, then you've got the third party, then DOT still signs off on it. So please, work with us on this. You know, a question was asked earlier if this was part of a larger overall plan. fixing the housing challenge is like a jigsaw puzzle. This is absolutely a corner piece. It can stand alone, and it could. If everything else fails, this can move time forward. It's not going to solve all of it, but it sure is going to help. And so we are I didn't say the words, we're very much in support of this bill, in case you didn't figure that out by now. And would encourage you, please support this bill.
Questions, Representative Jack?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for taking my question. Coming back to what happens if they say no, isn't it more likely that in a development of this size, the issue is intersection design? Do we need a turning lane? Do we need signalized rather than just saying you can't have a driveway permit? Isn't it really more just working out the details?
Yes, and a lot of that will be addressed, and thank you for asking that question. And we did address that in our meetings. There will be an opportunity for a developer to sit with New Hampshire DOT and outline, this is what we're looking for, this is what we think you need, this is what the retainer would be if you decide to go in this other lane. So everything will be outlined at that very first meeting. The developer would then say, we're prepared to do so. It's incumbent upon the developer to have their act together and provide all the paperwork at once. So it'll be outlined at the very, very first meetings. And the developer, along with DOT, would say, you could qualify for this third lane or second lane of approval, or you can go in the first in, first out process that's in place right now. So, Representative, that is addressed in the very front, and expectations are set at that very first meeting. There would be a retainer that would be calculated out of how much the expected cost of a consultant would be. The developer would pay that to the state of New Hampshire, and there'd be billables and accountables against that retainer for the fee of the third party. At the conclusion of that project and everything granted and signed off, the state of New Hampshire and DOT would have 120 days to get the balance back to that developer. But there's a full accounting of it from minute one. My board is so excited for this.
Further questions, Representative Rockmore?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you tell me your prediction? What percentage of builders building 20 units or more would take advantage of this expedited process?
I don't have a strong answer for you. Because if it doesn't get through this process, then it's all for naught.
Thank you.
Representative Vallone?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for taking my question. Just real quickly, who hires the consultant, the builder or DOT?
DOT.
Thank you.
Representative Newman?
Yes, if these developments, thank you. If these developments are for 20 units or more on a parcel, would the expectation be that these would be located around our major, larger places in New Hampshire? Or could they also be in rural areas?
I would guess that a lot of them would be in, thank you for asking. A lot of them would tend to be towards major thoroughfares. But if there's a 20 home subdivision in Goshen, that could be a possibility also. I just pulled an arbitrary town, so.
Yeah, okay,
Follow up.
just a quick follow-up. And I'm asking that because fairly recently at a casual conversation during lunch, there were two women speaking, three of us were talking, and we all talked about housing, the challenges in New Hampshire, and one made the comment that so much of New Hampshire isn't zoned for housing areas or as timber or other things not buildable. So she said that's an issue that has to be reconciled when people are looking at doing developments.
Absolutely. Right now, 84% of New Hampshire is forested. So in the 16% of buildable land that's out there, or land available for that, this does not usurp any zoning regulations. It doesn't usurp any planning board. This is just saying, instead of waiting, if we'll we'll pick on Goshen since I mentioned Goshen. If Goshen says we have a 2-acre minimum, fine, that's no problem. It still has to go through the planning process and the zoning process. And what that does, Representative, is this other lane, it just takes that development from online, approved by the town, from a year to 14 months to 60 calendar days. It's going to happen because the town's approved it. It just moves it up a year. So it doesn't change anything other than just the time it takes to get the driveway permit done and the cut and bring those homes online. Does that answer the question, ma'am?
Follow up?
Yes, just so it's maybe more clear for me. So if they go in this fast track lane possibility, they would have dedicated personnel working directly with them to move this along.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Voigt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Matt, thank you very much for taking my question.
Yes, sir.
In the language of the bill on line 6 and 7, for residential use of 20 units or greater within 60 days, business days, of approval of the traffic impact study. Is that approval at the local planning level, or is that approval at the DOT level?
DOT.
Follow, Mr. Chairman?
Follow up?
So are you testifying that the builders are okay with the fact that they're going before a local planning board where they are probably having sat on my local planning board in the local community requiring a traffic study, something like this of that magnitude, that they're willing to accept that the DOT is going to have a second bite at the apple, even though they may have already received permitting process at the local level?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, thank you very much, Mr. Mayberry.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee. Have a nice day.
I'd next like to call Mr. Josh Reap from the Associated Builder and Contractors, please.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hello, good morning, members of the committee. My name's Joshua Reap. I'm the president and CEO of Associated Builders and Contractors. Our contractors have about 300 member companies that build here in New Hampshire. They are primarily commercial and public work kind of contractors, but in addition to that, the majority of them do multifamily developments as well, apartment buildings, multi-tract suburban home developments and stuff of the like as well. So that's why we're here today. And, I won't rehash a lot of what's said. We definitely are very supportive of the bill, encourage its passage. We thank the senator and the other sponsors who put this bill forth because we feel like there's been a bottleneck that's happened for a long time with DOT. There's a lot that's going on in this state. They just don't have the bandwidth to get it all done. So ultimately, this bill is been a long time coming. And it's very much needed because we have a lot of folks that just don't have housing. We have people that are looking for places to live. And the struggles that are happening also on the developer portion is, as alluded to earlier, is the financing. We all know what market rate financing for a lot of these projects are today. Well, I'm here to tell you that when you're waiting up to a year for a decision to come for something as seemingly innocuous as a driveway cut to be approved, your pro forma or finance behind a project can fall apart very easily. It's very difficult to get these things put together and then have to wait up to a year. You can see things fall apart. So providing this additional lane to fast track or expedite something is very much welcomed by the industry. And it's also a solution that we've endorsed, and it will be paid for by the private sector. I just want to emphasize that as well. This is no additional burden to the taxpayers. DOT, I've attended a couple hearings on or presentations about what the process is going to look like. The developers I've spoken with, the builders I've talked to, said this can work very well for them. Waiting 60 days versus up to like 30, 40 months, this is a good thing. This is definitely needed. So I just wanted to say that we are definitely, in fact, supportive of the bill. What DOT is planning, I think, is a sound process and will protect the public's interests while also helping to move forward some of these developments that are approved on a local level. So without further ado, those are my comments. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Reap. Representative Juris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Will this bill help promote the builders in your group that and I'm referencing an apartment building, where some of the units, or maybe 20% of the units are affordable housing. Do you see this bill helping as well?
Well, I see this bill helping any kind of development that has over the threshold of, I think, of 20 doors or more, which includes some of those sort of projects you're talking about. And having served on the Governor's Council of Housing Stability, I can tell you that a lot of builders are very keen and interested in helping provide more built environment for people of all socioeconomic brackets, including the what we call workforce development.
Follow up?
Real quick, yeah, thank you. The traffic engineering consultant, will there be consultants that have already been vetted and ready to go once you file the permit?
Yeah, my understanding is that there will be DOT vetted consultants that will be familiar with and probably already doing this work already in the private sector for the traditional way of permitting. But by designating them as fast track consultants, we can get this projects done quicker.
Before we take any further questions, I just want to remind the committee that we're going to have somebody from DOT actually speak after this. And if your questions are regarding DOT projects, please address them to the appropriate person.
Thank you,
not-
Representative.
Not the actual builder itself. Representative Brown.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for taking my question. So on these projects, you have, what, 300 builders you typically work with, I think you said?
Yeah, that's correct.
So these people are typically familiar with what the DOT regulations are in regard to driveway permits, I assume?
They are, and a lot of the expert engineers that they utilize are already the ones doing the work now.
So is there a process that they go through when they identify a property that they might want to put 20 homes in or a apartment complex in that they do before they purchase the land to determine whether it would be appropriate for them to even pursue a permit of this type?
Yeah, so the DOT permit is obviously separate from what the local zoning board will approve and not approve. So obviously, yes, during that whole vetting of a piece of land, that'll be determined months in advance before they actually get to the point of putting a driveway cut in.
Just by way of
Follow-up.
clarification. So what you're saying is they already know what all these regulations are in the towns and for the state. So before they even pursue a project, they typically understand that. So the expectation is that if you meet those regulations, that you would get approval, correct?
Just speaking to the bill itself, this is about saying we could follow the traditional process, and because it's so bottlenecked, we can wait months and months and months to build something, or we can have the same sort of process happen, but expedited through this fast lane that we're talking about.
Just quickly.
Final question.
So what I'm saying is that you already know this, what the requirements are ahead of time. What you're trying to do is expedite the process that you already know what the regulations are, site distance or whatever for a
Yeah.
project of this type. All this bill is going to do is allow you to get that permit quicker if you meet all those requirements.
Specifically, just to be clear, there are multiple permits in the building process with different levels of government, obviously. In the world of getting the DOT curb cut, yeah, that's trying to expedite that because we found that is a strain on a lot of projects that are being developed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Reap, for all your testimony.
Thank you.
I'd next like to call on Mr. Alan Hanscom from the DOT. Do some heavy lifting on questions, I'm sure. Welcome, sir.
Apparently so, thank you. Hi, good morning, Mr. Chairman. I'm Alan Hanscom. I'm a state maintenance engineer for the Department of Transportation. In the Bureau of Highway Maintenance, there are 6 maintenance districts that actually review and issue the driveway permits, and they all work under my office. In a prior life, I spent a couple of decades as a district engineer in district out of Enfield and Guilford, so I'm pretty well aware of our process. So the Department of Transportation has been working with Senator McConkey and the New Hampshire Home Builders Association to determine a workable solution that expedites the process required to obtain a driveway permit related to residential use. We're revising right now the documentation in our online portal system to clarify the process, the timeline, and the expectations on the department and on the applicant to issue the permits. The current language of SB 153 implements an expedited permitting process for applications for major entrances for residential use of 20 units or more to issue the permit within 60 business days of approval of the traffic impact study. The bill establishes a $120 fee per unit to fund a specialist position dedicated as a liaison to administrate the expedited program and the software systems and upgrades and maintenance. SB 153 also establishes a mechanism for the applicant to pay a third-party professional engineer review of the traffic study and highway plans under DOT oversight, separate from other commercial industrial permits. Reviews will be conducted by a consultant engineer under contract with the department at with a predetermined fee structure. We're working with some consultant engineers right now, at least on background of what those fees might be, depending on the complexity of the project and the complexity of the highway that they're connecting to. This is a pass-through cost with no DOT markup, and any funds remaining will be returned to the applicant upon the completion of the review. We've been taking a critical review of the documents and processes since HB 1202 became law last October. And if you recall, that related to minor residential driveway permits. We're trying to clarify expectations and make the process more transparent. SB 153 will allow the department to continue needed improvements and be more responsive to applicants of all types and sizes of permits, including trench permits and other right-of-way activity permits. We appreciate having a seat at the table with the sponsor in the development of the current bill language. I listened to a number of questions and don't have written answers, but I'll entertain some of them again if you desire.
Thank you. Thank you. Representative Vallone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for taking my question. So I'm just trying to figure out how this bill covers the cost. So you said $120 per unit is what the fee will be?
Yes.
So I just did a quick math on it. This is $650,000 basically fiscal impact. That means it's about 5,200 units a year. Does that seem like sort of the amount of applications that you would handle at the department?
It varies obviously year to year. Our online system has been active since last August. I believe we've handled about 1,700 permit applications, and I think 40% have been residential housing, I think. I don't know how that math works out, but the fee is intended to fund a position that spends the vast amount of their time as a liaison between the applicant, the district, the consultant engineer that is reviewing the application, as well as the bureaus of highway design, traffic, and other bureaus in the department, trying to take all of the timelines that sometimes are strung out consecutively and try to compact it and remove some of the dead time when things might be sitting.
Thank you.
Representative Rockmore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for taking my question. Are you at all concerned with the risk that if we allow this expedited process for permitting, then actually things will get worse for the developers who don't pay for the expedited process, that their process will stretch from a year to 2 years, 3 years?
We don't believe so, because this will remove applications that qualify for the expedited process. It removes it from the pipeline and frees up the time that we would spend on those types of applications on all of the rest of them, minor residential, the big box commercials and other stuff. So the idea is for the third-party consultant to take on some of the duties that our staff has been acting upon, and like as was said, if first in, first out, we take them chronologically, not as they happen upon us. So.
Thank you.
Representative Newman.
Thank you. Could you elaborate on your last comment? So currently, you take stuff in a chronological order? Okay. If this were in place, you would have the chronological list, batch of whatever, but then you would have the expedited lane.
Correct. It's all going to be chronological. We don't cherry pick. This one looks easy, so we'll tackle this one first. Out of respect for those that have been waiting longer. So it's going to be chronological in either path that we take, but it will take out part of the work product and hand it off to someone else to spend time on.
Follow-up.
A follow-up. So currently, the way it's going, do you separate, because I heard terms bottleneck, bandwidth and whatever. So it sounds like it's a staffing situation for taking care of everything. But do you separate out, we've got a single residential home going up here, we've got a commercial building here, we've got a multi-unit collection going over here. Right now, do you just take them in order, no matter what they are, or do you say, we take one residential as they come so that you're dealing with them all at the same time?
Thank you. All of the applications take one of several different paths. The single-family residential is rather easy to deal with. It's dealt with locally in the district. It wouldn't qualify for the expedited process to begin with, but the single-family residential are quick, and the shopping mall is slow, and then everything else in between takes various paths. Some require revision. Each driveway is different from the last one and the next one, so they all have a different process.
Right, thank you.
Representative Faulkner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question regards whether the 20 units is the proper thing. My understanding right now is that minor projects already have a 60-day deadline.
Correct.
Is 20 units the current cutoff between minor and major residential projects? Because it seems, in my experience, that's pretty small. It's like talking about 10 or 12 peak hour trips. Is that
Yeah.
20, is that cutoff too low? I can't believe we're spending a year looking at a 20 unit.
That could be. So you got to draw the line someplace. In conversations with the Home Builders Association and with our staff, we felt that 20 was a good number to start with. It all depends, as I said before, it depends on the location of where they want to connect to the highway system. 20 units in downtown Concord are going to be vastly different than 500 units might be up in Thornton or something. So the size and complexity is going to be different wherever they are. Some 20 units will go very quick, and some not so quick. So.
Representative Jack. I'm sorry, waved off. Representative Edgar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for taking my question. Is the DOT the one that sets the retainer estimate?
We're working with third-party consultant engineers now to arrive at some costs. we've talked to a couple, and our in-house staff is also been spending some time estimating what time is appropriate, what's the appropriate time needed to review this part of on the plans as it goes through the process. So we think this should take 5 days, this should take 10 days, and then we apply, an hourly rate to that to arrive at a cost. We don't have anything established. We have not finalized anything yet. We're still in the early part of that part of the process, but we're working towards that.
Follow up?
Thank you. So the answer is DOT is the one that will set the retainer?
Yes, we're going to establish the contracts. They'll be between us and the consultant engineers. The costs will be public knowledge with the developers, so they know what they're getting into based on the size and complexity of the application.
Final question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And if that, is there any system right now that if that initial retainer is exceeded, that there's some type of negotiation or something? Or, I mean, the contractor is still going to have to pay for it. The state doesn't pick it up if it comes past that particular original estimate?
Correct, yes. Our intention is to arrive at a fee that allows a certain portion of it to be applied to the traffic study, to the design plans, the construction plans, and some revision and review time. So hopefully we'll have it right on the first time by, and there'll be something left over. Occasionally there'll be a hiccup that will require more time, or maybe the applicant's engineer isn't as up on things as others might be. So sometimes there's multiple iterations.
Thank you.
Two final questions. First, Representative Bohm, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for taking the question. So say I'm the developer and I want to build a 50-unit place, and I go to the DOT. I said, how long will it take to get me a permit for and well, right now in the line is 2 to 3 years. But if you give me $5,000, I can do it in 60 days. Doesn't that sound like graft to you?
Well, it won't be 2 or 3 years. I can kind of guarantee that. But
Well, you said 30.
as Mr. Mayberry said earlier, they go into this with a full knowledge that it's going to be an added expense to allow the review to go faster. Many applicants are dissatisfied with the length of time it takes now, and this was a method to speed things along.
Final question, Representative Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is just a quick clarification. Based on what you just said, this process only applies to residential units, no commercial, no single family. It's just to expedite the housing process issues that we have right now, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're very welcome.
And at this point in time, I'd like to close the public hearing on Senate Bill 153. For the committee, I'd like to take about a 15-minute recess here. If the Democrats would like to caucus in room 203, Republicans can caucus in my office and meet back here at 11:05, and I think we can go ahead and executive session on this.
So
Please.
Democrats meet in the House Transportation Committee, not the committee office, the committee room, please, for 15 minutes.
Question, Christie. Christie, I've got a question. Before we get into executive session, as a Senate bill, do we act on 0759S as an amendment, as a separate amendment, or do we just act on it? Okay, so it's just as amended, okay. So it's passed. Thank you very much. That was my question. All right. It being 11:07 for the record, I'd like to call the executive session on Senate Bill 153 to order and recognize Representative Brown for a motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make a motion on ought to pass for Senate Bill 153 FN.
Motion has been made. Do I hear a second? Second by Representative Edgar. We'll give the clerk a second or two to get his paperwork. Cole. Clerk will now call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Vice Chairman Melvin.
Aye.
Representative Cole.
Yes.
Representative Kaczynski. Is not here. I apologize. The clerk votes no. Deputy Speaker Smith.
Yes.
Representative Bohm.
No,
Representative Brown.
Yes.
Representative Lewis.
Yes.
Representative Suter.
Not here.
Not here. Sorry. Representative Cloutier.
Yes.
Representative Jack.
Yes.
Representative Edgar.
Aye.
Representative Faulkner.
Yes.
Representative Newman.
Yes.
Representative Vallone.
Yes.
Representative Juris.
Yes.
Representative Rockmore.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Chair votes yes.
By a vote of 14 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative, 2 not voting, OTP Senate Bill 1553 FN passes.
Thank you very much. Motion's been made and carried. Any questions, any discussions?
Mr. Chair, is this going to
Representative
go on
Cloutier.
consent or?
Do we have any objections to this going on consent? We have an objection. Yes, it will go on the floor, please. Anything further? Executive session is now closed. Got a couple of announcements for the committee in front of you, and this is thanks to Representative Boyd. We have been invited to travel the Conic Scenic Railroads Mountaineer Social, May 19th. And my understanding, if I read this correct, we're each allowed to bring 4 guests if you want to RSVP. Do we have anything else for the committee? There will probably be, the DOT at the last minute had wanted to bring, and it'll come out as a floor amendment to this, but I didn't want to hold anybody up for the hours that it would take to make an amendment on this. That simply says they have to either confirm or deny it in that 60 days. It's just a little housekeeping thing, so thought I'd let you all know. And once again, I personally made the decision not to draw this out for hours and hours and have to reschedule us all back here for an executive session. So there will be a floor amendment for this. Answer anybody else's questions. Anything else?
Mr. Chair-
Representative
Yeah,
Cloutier.
I think this form, as you understand it, would actually improve the bill. I mean,
Yeah, it's a housekeeping thing because it says not only do they have to approve it, but they have to approve it or deny it within 60 days. So there's nothing else. One last thing, anybody that's got drawers in here, any information you've got in your personal drawer, we need to get it out by the 22nd of May. At that point in time, this is going to be our last meeting, as far as I know, in this room. We're going to all be meeting whatever that building is down the street, Granite, whatever it is. I haven't seen it yet, but there won't be any committee meeting. There won't be any assigned committee rooms. There won't be assigned drawers. It's going to be catch and carry, and we'll meet in a different room every time. So thank goodness we don't have the heavy lifting that a lot of the other committees do. Correct, Deputy Speaker? Seeing nothing else, that's all I've got. Thank you very much.
okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Subject to speak.